The rain was relentless that night, the kind that made city lights look like melted gold dripping down the glass towers of Chicago. Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the steering wheel as his old Ford rumbled through the downtown streets. The windshield wipers squeaked in protest, barely keeping up with the downpour. In the passenger seat, his 8-year-old daughter Lily hummed softly, her voice rising and falling with the rhythm of the rain. She clutched her worn-out teddy bear, the same one that had been with her in every hospital waiting room after Ethan's accident 3 years ago. Back then, he had been a proud construction foreman, the kind of man who came home covered in dust but smiling, who could fix anything with his hands. Until the day the scaffolding gave way beneath him. The fall shattered more than his leg, it shattered his faith. The company he worked for, Brooks and Vale Development, refused to take responsibility. Their investigation concluded worker error. They offered no compensation. Their CEO, Victoria Vale, stood on television, expression of sympathy rehearsed, calling it a tragic incident. Ethan still remembered watching that press conference from his hospital bed, his leg in traction as she smiled through his pain. The bills piled up. His wife left soon after, and the only reason he hadn't completely given up was sitting beside him now, Lily, with her gentle eyes and quiet strength. He had reinvented himself since then. Delivery driver by night, part-time mechanic by day. He told himself he was done with the past. But sometimes fate doesn't care what you're done with. The delivery app on his cracked phone buzzed. Pick up, Vale Tower, 56th floor. Delivery for Victoria Vale. He stared at the name until the screen dimmed. A hollow laugh escaped him. You've got to be kidding me. Daddy, Lily asked sleepily. Something wrong? He forced a smile. Nothing, sweetheart, just work. He dropped her off at his neighbor, Mrs. Carson's apartment, with a promise to be back soon. Then he drove toward Vale Tower, a sleek skyscraper piercing the storm clouds like a silver blade. The lobby was nearly empty, save for a sleepy security guard. The elevator ride up was silent, except for the hum of electricity and Ethan's heartbeat drumming in his ears. When the doors opened on the 56th floor, he stepped into a world of marble, glass, and silence. A single light glowed from the CEO's office at the end of the hall. He knocked once. "Come in," a faint voice answered. Inside, Victoria Vale sat by the window, her back turned to him. The skyline shimmered behind her, but her reflection in the glass looked broken. Gone was the polished, unshakable businesswoman he'd seen on TV. Her hair was loose, her arm wrapped in a sling, her face pale and tired. "Just set it on the desk," she said without looking. He placed the food bag down, then hesitated. Something in her voice wasn't right. It wasn't cold or commanding. It was trembling. "Are you okay, ma'am?" Ethan asked. She flinched at the sound of his voice. Then, in a hoarse whisper, she said, "Please don't hit me. I'm already hurt." Ethan froze. His chest tightened. "Ma'am?" She turned slowly and his breath caught. There were bruises, fresh ones under her makeup. Her right eye was swollen and the side of her lip was split. "I thought you were," she began, her voice cracking. "Who?" Ethan asked softly. "My fiancé," she said, eyes darting toward the elevator. "He's been angry. The board found out he embezzled company funds. He blames me for exposing him." Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd seen men like that before, cowards who hid behind money and fists. "Do you want me to call someone?" he offered. She shook her head frantically. "You should go. He's coming back." The elevator dinged behind them, the sound slicing through the room. A tall man in a black suit stepped out, his expression a storm of arrogance and rage. His tie hung loose, his knuckles red. "Who the hell are you?" he barked, glaring at Ethan. Ethan straightened his shoulders. "Delivery." "Not anymore," the man sneered, stepping closer. "Get out!" Victoria whispered, "Daniel, stop." But Daniel didn't stop. He grabbed her arm roughly, making her wince in pain. "You called someone, didn't you? You think I won't finish this because he's here?" Ethan's blood boiled. "Let her go." Daniel turned his glare toward him. "You really want to die for her, delivery boy?" Ethan stepped forward, his limp barely noticeable. "I've already lost everything once. Try me." For a moment, the air was electric. Then Daniel released Victoria, shoving her back toward the desk. "You'll regret this," he snarled. He stormed past Ethan and into the elevator. The metallic doors closed behind him with a heavy clang. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Victoria sank into the chair, trembling. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Yeah, well, I've never been good at walking away." She looked up at him then, eyes softening. "You look familiar. Have we met before?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "Yeah, 3 years ago, the scaffolding collapse at your riverfront site." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You're Ethan Cole," he said. "The man your company said was at fault." Her face went pale. She swallowed hard. "Ethan, I didn't know what they did to you. The lawyers—" "Save it," he interrupted bitterly. "You don't owe me anything. I just came to drop off food." But even as he turned to leave, her voice stopped him. "You saved me tonight, Ethan, and I think I might finally be able to repay you." He didn't understand what she meant, not yet, but something in her tone told him the night wasn't over. Outside, thunder cracked like the city itself was holding its breath. And deep down, Ethan knew this wasn't just a delivery. It was the beginning of something much bigger than either of them. The storm outside grew louder as the night deepened. Lightning flickered through the massive glass windows of Vale Tower, throwing streaks of white light across Victoria's pale face. Ethan stood near the door, one hand still on the delivery bag he hadn't bothered to collect payment for. He wanted to leave, to go home to Lily, but something inside him told him he couldn't. Not yet. Victoria Vale, the woman whose signature had buried him alive, sat trembling in the same office that had once symbolized everything he despised. But the bruises on her face told a story money couldn't hide. "Sit, please," she said softly. "You shouldn't be in the open if Daniel comes back." Ethan hesitated, then nodded, taking a seat opposite her. The tension in the room was thick, but beneath it ran a strange, uneasy current of empathy. Two people broken by the same world, sitting in the ruins of their pride. She took a shaky breath. "Ethan, I didn't know about the scaffolding, the cover-up, any of it. My father, he handled all the liability cases back then. When he died, I took over and I started digging through files. I found your name." Ethan's eyes narrowed, and her voice trembled. "The collapse wasn't your fault. The safety reports were falsified. The steel supports were substandard, cheaper imports. Someone on the board signed off on them to cut costs." He felt his chest tighten. "You're telling me I lost my leg, my career, and my family because someone wanted to save money?" Victoria nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "And that someone was Daniel. He was head of procurement back then. When I found the proof, he threatened to ruin me if I exposed him." Ethan sat back, numb. He had imagined this moment for years, imagined screaming, demanding justice, seeing her fall from her golden pedestal. But instead of triumph, he felt something else, exhaustion. "You had 3 years to tell the truth," he said bitterly. "I didn't have the proof until now," she whispered. "And when I tried to gather it, he found out. That's why he's been doing this to me." She touched her bruised cheek, her hand shaking. Ethan clenched his fists. The old rage, the kind that used to keep him awake at night, surged back through his veins. "Where's the proof now?" "In my office safe," she said, "but he took the key." Ethan stood. "Then we take it back." Before she could stop him, he was already heading for the elevator. But just as he reached it, the lights flickered and went out. The building fell into darkness. Victoria gasped. "He's here." A voice echoed from the shadows. "Smart woman." Daniel's silhouette appeared near the doorway, gun in hand, a cruel smirk cutting across his face. "You just don't know when to quit, do you, Vicky?" Ethan stepped forward. "Put it down!" Daniel chuckled. "You again? What is this? Her knight in shining armor. You don't know who you're dealing with." "Neither do you," Ethan said, his voice low, dangerous. Daniel raised. The gun, but before he could fire, Ethan charged. The shot went wide, shattering the glass wall behind them. Wind and rain burst into the room as they collided. The fight was fast, brutal. Two men fueled by rage and desperation. Daniel was bigger, stronger, but Ethan fought like a man who had already lost everything once and refused to lose again. They crashed into a glass table, sending shards across the marble floor. Ethan's shoulder burned, but he kept going, landing a punch square across Daniel's jaw. The gun slid across the floor toward Victoria. She hesitated, then kicked it toward Ethan. Daniel lunged again, but this time Ethan was ready. With one swift movement, he pinned him to the ground, the gun aimed squarely at his chest. "Why?" Ethan demanded, his voice shaking. "You destroyed my life. You almost killed her. Why?" Daniel spat blood and laughed. "Because people like you don't matter. You're replaceable, just another name on a report." Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger, then stopped. He looked at Victoria, standing there with tears streaming down her face, and slowly lowered the gun. "No," he said quietly, "that's what makes me different from you." He tossed the gun aside. At that moment, security guards burst through the broken door, weapons drawn. They tackled Daniel and dragged him away as he shouted curses. Victoria collapsed into a chair, shaking. "It's over," she whispered. But Ethan shook his head. "No, not yet. The world still thinks I'm the man who caused that collapse." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Then we'll tell them the truth, together." A month later, the story broke across every major news outlet. Whistleblower CEO exposes corruption in Brooks and Vale scandal, exonerates former employee Ethan Cole. The footage showed Victoria standing at a press conference, her arm still in a sling, but her head held high. Beside her stood Ethan, wearing a simple suit that didn't quite fit, but somehow looked perfect on him. "I was wrong," she said to the crowd of reporters. "Ethan Cole was a victim, not a cause, and I owe him more than an apology. I owe him justice." When the cameras turned off, Ethan quietly slipped away from the spotlight. Fame wasn't what he wanted. He just wanted peace. Outside, Lily ran up to him and wrapped her small arms around his waist. "Daddy, are you okay?" He smiled, lifting her into his arms. "Yeah, sweetheart, we're finally okay." Victoria approached them, holding a folder. "This is for you," she said softly. Inside were legal documents, full compensation, medical coverage, and a job offer at her new company. "I don't know what to say," Ethan murmured. "Say yes," she said with a faint smile. "You deserve a fresh start." He looked at her for a long moment. "And what about you?" "I'm rebuilding too," she said, "from the ground up." The wind picked up, carrying the sound of traffic and distant laughter through the city streets. For the first time in years, Ethan felt light. The weight of pain and bitterness had lifted, replaced by something fragile and real: hope. As they walked away together, the single dad, his daughter, and the once broken CEO, the storm finally cleared, leaving behind a sky streaked with gold.